Today we're going to talk about systems. System stands for saving you stress, time, energy, and money. The challenge is that creating systems causes stress and it costs time, energy, and money. It's one of the hardest things to do in business, but yet has some of the biggest payoff. So I'm going to give you 2 tips on how to make your systems good so they actually stick. Here's the first thing that your systems need to be, is they need to be really clear. And that might sound obvious, but your definition of clear and what's actually clear are not necessarily the same thing. For example, I used to teach systemization workshops with groups of business leaders, and I would have them do an exercise where at their table, each group was responsible for making a paper airplane and documenting the system for how they made the paper airplane. What they didn't know would happen next is that I would take all the paper airplanes and they'd hand their system to the next table over, and that table would have to recreate their airplane. Now in theory, they should look identical because they followed the system. But you can imagine that was never, ever the case. I've never had 2 airplanes that actually looked the same because the system was flawed. They left out some really fundamental principles, such as, for example, does the paper start this way or does it start this way? When they say fold the corner, what does that mean to fold the corner? There was too much left reading between the lines. So the problem is that what's clear to you might not be clear to others because you have this baseline level of knowledge that's maybe assumed that the other person shares, and that might not be the case. So a good test of the clarity of a system is to have somebody who's not in that role test the system and see if they can follow it, right? So they don't have the same assumptions that you had when you create the system. If they can follow it, then it's clear. The second test of a good system is it's got to be easy to use. In the book, The Checklist Manifesto, they talk about the power of a really simple checklist that surgeons use, that pilots use. They don't have time in those moments that are critical to be reading paragraphs and paragraphs or sorting through information or watching long videos, right? They have to make the system in a way that's easy to use and easy to consume. Checklists are great. I would say if I had to pick my favorite type of system, it's probably going to be a checklist system. But that doesn't make sense in all circumstances. Sometimes the systems need to be in videos or screen recording or pictures or flowcharts, right? There's all sorts of ways that you can do this, but set it up to win by making it easy for the people to use. If it's difficult to use, difficult to access, requires too much effort to find the one little step that they wanted the one little question that they wanted to get answered, it's not going to get used. So if you want your systems to save you stress, time, energy, and money, make them clear and make them easy to use. Hope that helps. Have a great day.